So recently, Mark and I watched the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for Thanksgiving. And basically, it's a movie about these two guys who are mismatched. It's your classic, like, road trip comedy. And it's starring John Candy and Steve Martin, made in 1987. And what did we think? What did we think?
Well, in general, I think we both actually really liked it. It's a very down to earth comedy with not too many large leaps in logic. I mean, all these events seem like things that could actually happen to a person, aside from a couple.
That's true. I mean, there are situations that have, it's not like everyone's a doofus in it and stupid things just happen to the doofus people. It's kind of like if we had a guy who was like sort of a wealthy business-ish type of dude, and he was just trying to get home for Thanksgiving, and he ran into a guy who was more middle class,
Hardworking middle class,
slobbish even type. He would
just a bit.
it would just cause some problems between them, and so it's Neil and Dale. Neil is the fancy business guy, and then Dale is kind of the guy. Dale or Dale?
I always heard Dale.
Okay, whatever. It whatever it was. He's a shower curtain ring salesman, and the other
Specific
guy,
we know.
He's like the other guy. I don't even. He's like what, cover design for magazines, something fancy.
Some sort of marketing deal. He works in the marketing department for his company. The company's name is never mentioned, but he's upper middle class, if not upper class.
Right. So well-to-do. He's got the monies. The other guy doesn't have the monies, and so chaos ensues. I like this movie. It seems to be the precursor movie for a lot of movies that have come afterwards, like Due Date with Robert Downey Jr. Movies like that. This seemed to be the one that pushed that style of a movie forward, and like I said, it's not that much of a doofusy comedy, but it ended up being the comedy that does have some trueness to it, and then it ends up being heartwarming with its message. So
Yeah, it's not very slapstick at all, like movies like Naked Gun or Hot Shots, where it's very slapstick, all sorts of random things happen. This one's very, as I said earlier, down to earth. And it's honestly really funny for it, because these are all sorts of people you'd meet in real life.
well, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be awkward if you're stuck with a dude. Like, so what happens is, like, he tries to get home. He has issues getting to the airport on time. The flight gets delayed, so basically, him and this other dude try to drive, and chaos ensues, and the trip takes a lot longer than it's intended, and then they just end up in a motel with one bed, and these are complete strangers. They're trying to figure out how to live in the same room with each other without killing each other, that sort of thing. So, like, it's just rough. I mean, especially when the guy tries to wash his socks in the sink. Like,
That was. I've never seen that personally, but I guess desperate times call for desperate measures.
I think it's within the realm of possibility. I think you can meet people like that. So
I suppose the lack of a washing machine may cause various needs.
I don't know. Did they have washing machines in the 80s? I don't know.
Not like we have today.
Well, anyway, like I said, I think the message is actually kind of a warm, uh, happy, healthy type of thing. Like, you do have the mismatch and the anger that comes off from Neil. He feels very inconvenienced. He's paid for everything. Everything starts going wrong, but he does kind of feel for this guy who's not as well off as him. He understands that this guy is, Dale is actually a very good-hearted person.
He's almost oppressively nice and oppressively talkative.
Yeah, and so you gotta accept him for who he is, but then it really sucks when you have to spend time with him and you're trying to, he has all these he smokes, he drinks, he has a lot of just,
Problems.
heavy eating habits, and yeah, he's got this emotional things. Like, he just makes simple mental mistakes. Just, we all know a person like that who's hard to be around sometimes, and that's just what the movie's mostly about. So yeah, I mean, considering the path that it takes when this mismatched duo just eventually learns to be a team and try to make it back home for Christmas or Thanksgiving rather. They just, things just eventually work out. And I don't want to give away too much because I think that this is a pretty watchable movie for people. I don't, you know, I I didn't think it was bad. I don't think it aged terribly either. I think that these are a lot of things that are relatable. Well, I guess maybe that's not true. I mean, a lot of the problems that they have in this movie could be easily solved by modern technology, actually, and stuff. So maybe that's totally wrong.
Yeah, when this movie was made, they didn't exactly have a good Uber system, so we couldn't exactly call up a stranger and just get going.
Cell phones either, like those were just different times. It was a lot harder back then. So you should appreciate it. You should be thankful. That's what you should do.
It is that time of year.
But yeah, guys, I mean, I can't talk. Planes, trains, and automobiles. I liked it. I thought it was funny. It's just some of the classic work done by Steve Martin and John Candy. So I'd recommend it. Mark, would you recommend it?
I would recommend it, but I would like to note that it is in fact rated R, specifically for about a 5-minute scene around the middle of the movie. But it is in fact rated R.
That's true. It definitely I wouldn't say it goes off tilt too much in any level, except for one scene. It just kind of blows everything up. And it's about the pinnacle of where Neil is just had it with this situation. So
yeah, at that point they had split off for a short time, and things just went very far downhill for him.
Yeah, and that was an interesting thing we did talk about. Like when they separated, like things were going poorly, and they decided to try to stick together and stick it out together. And when they, it wasn't going very well, but when they separated, it got so much worse,
significantly.
And it just sends a nice little message that if you're having trouble traveling, if you're any of those things, even if you're with people you don't like, it's probably better to stay together in times of need, things like that. So I think that's a pretty good message as well. So
2 heads are better than one, as they say,
most of the time. So yep, planes, trains, and automobiles, guys.
Highly recommend. Definitely worth your watch.